Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we have a pretty packed roundup for Mongil Star Dive because the developers have been dropping information non-stop over the past few days. We've got login events, an upcoming live stream, new character reveals, and Dev Note number 7 packed with major changes coming in Update 1.2. So in this video, we're going through everything one by one to give you a complete overview and help you prepare for what's coming next. First, I want to talk about the ongoing login event because it's the most practical one and it's available right now. The surprise login reward event runs from June 12th through June 16th and is divided into 4 reward periods. During each period, you can claim 100 keys and 3 Conquest Entry Tickets. It might not sound like much at first, but overall 4 periods, that adds up to 400 keys and 12 Conquest Entry Tickets completely free, simply by logging in and claiming them from your mail. From my experience, this is exactly the kind of event that many players accidentally overlook because it doesn't come with flashy announcements. However, keys are always valuable for farming gold, EXP, and upgrading skills, while Conquest Entry Tickets can save you a significant amount of resources if you're trying to push higher conquest stages. On top of that, Update 1.1 introduces a brand new conquest boss after you complete the story, so having extra tickets available could be especially useful if you plan to challenge it. One important thing to keep in mind is that these rewards can only be claimed once per account, and if you miss the claim window, there's a good chance they won't be restored later. So make sure to check your mail regularly over the next few days and don't leave those free rewards sitting there. Next, let's talk about the biggest event of this week, the Developer Lounge Talk livestream, which will take place on June 16th, next Tuesday at 10 UTC. This broadcast is scheduled just one day before the official Update 1.2 launch on June 17th, and its main purpose is to introduce the new character Nagi, while also featuring a live Q&A session with the community. One detail I want everyone to pay attention to is that the live stream will be hosted primarily in Korean, as that is the host's native language, and an official summary will be translated and released afterward. So if you don't understand Korean, there's really no need to worry. Simply waiting for the recap will still give you all of the key information without missing anything important. In my opinion, this is also a great opportunity for the global community to raise questions directly with the development team, especially regarding game balance and some of the upcoming features that I'm about to discuss next. Now let's move on to what I think many of you have been waiting for the most, the new character Nagi, who will officially debut on June 17. From a lore perspective, Nagi holds the title of Whitefire Shaman and serves as the leader of the Snake Beastkin tribe. She is portrayed as both captivating and immensely powerful, driven by her ambition to rule the land of Baeka. Looking at her kit, I think Nagi is clearly designed around wind damage and excels at crowd control through the airborne effect. Her basic attack, God-killing Slash, unleashes a series of wind blades, and if you hold the attack until the 4th strike or trigger an evasion counter, Nagi enters the heavenly orbit state to deal additional wind damage. Her special skill, Alluring Bloom, launches enemies into the air before crushing them with a powerful downdraft, while her ultimate, Abyss's Approach, creates a flower bud that pulls enemies together before blooming and dealing damage along with Wind Affliction, a fairly threatening wind element debuff. The part I appreciate the most about Nagi's design is her passive, Divine Seduction manifestation. When the Divine Seduction gauge is fully charged and you land a special skill or ultimate, Nagi gains the Alluring Empress's Reign buff. In addition, using an evasion counter or switch skill grants her the Beagling Scale effect for a period of time. In other words, this is a character whose gameplay rewards constant interaction with defensive mechanics and character swapping to maximize damage output. She doesn't feel like the type of DPS where you simply spam skills and call it a day. Her switch skill, Concealed Spirit, teleports her close to the enemy, disappears into a vortex of flowers, and then detonates to inflict airborne and wind damage, making it a very useful tool for both initiating combos and disengaging from combat. As for artifacts, the recommended choice for Nagi is Serpent Dragon's White Scale, featuring the Lethal Temptation set effect. Its activation condition requires the equipped character to belong to the Destroyer class. Once the requirement is met, using a switch skill grants the White Scale effect, increasing wind damage. Furthermore, if the character has damage immunity while White Scale is active, their basic attack damage is increased even further. Personally, I think this artifact creates a very interesting synergy because it encourages players to build around defensive mechanics while simultaneously boosting basic attack damage, resulting in a playstyle that feels noticeably different from many traditional DPS characters in the game. The fact that the artifact specifically requires a destroyer also indirectly confirms that Nagi herself is a destroyer. More importantly, she fills one of the biggest gaps currently present in win teams. For players who have already invested heavily into Estor, Nagi represents an excellent opportunity to elevate the entire team to another level and significantly strengthen your overall win composition. Now let's move on to what I consider the most important part of today's video, developer note number 7, where the developers shared a series of major changes planned for version 1.2, which is currently scheduled to launch on July 8. The first big addition is the introduction of the Legendary Monsterling system, with the very first Legendary Monsterling being Reginula. Unlike regular Monsterlings, Legendary Monsterlings will have stronger stats, and when equipped, they will visually accompany your character in the world, making them a cosmetic companion as well as a gameplay upgrade. However, each player can only own and equip one Legendary Monsterling across all of their characters. Since there is only a single copy, you won't be able to set up different rank effects or traits for individual characters. Personally, I think this is a very interesting design decision because it forces players to think carefully about whether to use the Legendary Monsterling as a universal option for their entire roster or optimize it exclusively for one main character. I have no doubt this will become one of the hottest discussion topics once the update arrives. Next is the dispatch system, something I believe many players have been waiting for because it is specifically designed to reduce the fatigue of manually farming maps over and over again. The system allows you to assign one of your own characters to an episode region, such as Elendor, where that character will automatically farm the area by catching monsterlings, gathering minerals, and collecting resources. Each day provides a limited number of dispatch opportunities, and each area can only be dispatched once per day. What I find particularly interesting is that the resources earned through dispatch are intended to be roughly equivalent to what you would obtain by farming the map yourself, while your Nyanur's level also affects the collection rate. This is clearly a move toward making the game more idle-friendly, and should be especially appealing to players who don't have time to grind manually every single day. The developers also address the current issues surrounding footwear crafting. They acknowledge that obtaining the right pair has been far more difficult than originally intended, so they will introduce a new stat called Role Specialization. This stat will always be guaranteed when crafting footwear, automatically matching the role of the equipped character, such as fighter or destroyer. The most important part is that all existing footwear in your inventory will be updated immediately once the patch goes live. That means if you already own a pair with excellent options but couldn't use it because of a role mismatch, you should definitely revisit your equipment after the update and assign it to the appropriate character. In addition, opportunities to craft and obtain footwear will be expanded through events and early game missions, which is excellent news for newer players. Another major area of improvement is the Monsterling system itself. Based on surveys and community feedback, the developers concluded that the current system creates too much frustration, so they plan to implement 3 major changes: adjustments to mutation rates, the addition of a trait upgrade system, and a trait refresh system. Trait upgrade allows players to increase the grade of an existing trait, for example, upgrading it from grade 1 to grade 2. However, I want to emphasize that this does not mean the current maximum of grade 5 will be exceeded. Instead, it simply makes reaching higher grade traits much more practical and efficient. Trait Refresh, meanwhile, lets you reroll the existing traits on a Monsterling into new ones, effectively solving the common situation where you obtain an excellent Monsterling but end up with undesirable traits. In my opinion, this could have one of the biggest long-term impacts on the overall player experience, because it directly addresses the frustration of investing huge amounts of time and effort without getting the results you want, which is a problem many gacha games struggle with. That said, the developers have also stated that these systems are still being carefully balanced, so the final implementation may change before release. Finally, there are several welcome improvements for mobile players. Users will be able to customize the size, position, and transparency of the virtual joystick, the skill buttons on the lower right side of the screen, and even certain on-screen banners. This comes directly from community feedback, especially repeated requests for a larger dodge button, something I think many mobile players will be very happy to see addressed. On top of that, the developers have teased that Mongil, Stardive's first summer festival, is currently in development, along with many additional improvements based on survey results and player feedback, although more details will be revealed at a later date. Overall, I think this is a very important period for Mongil Stardive. The developers are not only introducing new content like Nagi, but are also putting serious effort into improving the core systems that players have been criticizing, from Monsterling progression and farming fatigue to the overall mobile experience. If you're actively playing the game, I highly recommend taking advantage of the ongoing login event to stock up on keys and Conquest Entry Tickets while preparing your resources for Nagi's arrival on June 17th. And most importantly, don't forget to tune in to the Developer Lounge Talk on June 16th if you want to stay up to date with the latest information about version 1.2 before everyone else. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you found it helpful, be sure to leave a like and subscribe so I can continue bringing you fast and detailed coverage of everything happening in Mongil Stardive. I'll see you all again in the next video.